Oh God, I hate this.
It began with silence. Not a speech, not a statement, just 31 words quietly posted on the royal website. But those words carried the weight of centuries, and they shattered the career of Britain's most powerful man. By the time the nation woke up, Keir Starmer's downfall was already written by the hand of a king who didn't even need to say his name.
Sir Keir Starmer, Your Majesty.
Your Majesty. You must be utterly exhausted with your news. Not much to credit.
It started with whispers from Windsor, rumors of a meeting no one was supposed to know about. Behind the high walls of the castle, King Charles sat down with Nigel Farage and senior Reform UK figures for a private conversation about Britain's future. There were no cameras, no statements, no leaks. At least not at first. But in the age of political paranoia, secrets have a short life. Within hours, word reached Westminster, and what began as a quiet royal discussion erupted into a full-blown political earthquake. For Keir Starmer, the timing could not have been worse. His leadership was already under strain, plagued by doubts about his conviction and authority. The optics of the monarch, Britain's moral compass, consulting his most dangerous political rival, were disastrous. It didn't look like protocol, it looked like mistrust. And in the eyes of the public, it felt like the king had lost faith in his prime minister. Inside Downing Street, panic replaced routine. Advisors worked through the night, drafting statements that never made it to print. Ministers called for calm, but no one could hide the truth. If the king was turning to Farage, it meant something was breaking in the heart of government. And then the breaking point came from Starmer himself. Accounts from that night described chaos inside Number 10. The Prime Minister called an emergency meeting, his voice tight, his patience gone. Ministers filed into the cabinet room in uneasy silence. The air felt heavy, charged. Starmer didn't sit, he paced. His hands moved sharply as he spoke, his words growing faster, louder, and more bitter. Until suddenly, he stopped. He looked up, and in one reckless moment of anger, he crossed a line no British leader had ever dared to approach. "The monarchy," he said coldly, "is nothing but elderly men in elaborate costumes pretending to matter." The silence that followed was absolute. Faces froze, eyes darted. It wasn't just an insult, it was blasphemy in the language of British politics. Everyone in that room knew what those words meant. You can debate taxes, you can argue policy, but you do not insult the crown. By the next morning, the quote had leaked. No one claimed responsibility, but by dawn, journalists were already circling. By sunrise, it was everywhere. Starmer mocks the king. PM ridicules the crown. Headlines screamed from every paper and flooded every feed. And then came the reaction. It began online, an explosion of disbelief and anger. Hashtag Respect the Crown climbed to the top of social media trends within hours. Clips, memes, and furious commentary spread like wildfire. Even Labour's most loyal supporters found themselves at a loss for words. One viral video from Liverpool captured the national mood in a way no speech could. A retired teacher, her eyes wet with emotion, stared into her camera and said, "I voted Labour all my life, but insulting our king? That's not leadership, that's betrayal." Her words were simple, but they carried the force of generations. The clip spread across the country, echoing through homes, pubs, and offices. Within 24 hours, it had millions of views. And the numbers that followed were brutal. A YouGov poll released 2 days later confirmed what everyone feared. 73% of Britons believed Starmer had gone too far. Even worse, over half of Labour's own supporters said they no longer trusted him to lead. In the mining towns, in the industrial heartlands that once formed Labour's foundation, the mood turned from loyalty to resentment. Union leaders received furious calls from members demanding answers. Local Labour offices were flooded with cancellations and shredded membership cards. The fallout wasn't just political, it was cultural. For decades, the monarchy has been a thread of continuity in Britain's fractured identity. You didn't have to love the royals to respect what they represented. But Starmer's words had torn straight through that fabric. To many, it wasn't just an insult to the king, it was an insult to Britain itself. And through all of it, King Charles said nothing. He didn't need to. While Starmer scrambled from one interview to another, delivering half apologies and rehearsed regret, the king carried on as though the noise didn't exist. He visited hospitals. He greeted volunteers. He smiled for photographs with schoolchildren and veterans. And in that silence, the contrast spoke louder than any royal decree ever could. One BBC commentator captured it perfectly. One man looks like a statesman. The other looks like a leader unraveling in real time. That single line hit harder than any political attack ad. In living rooms across the country, people nodded, not because they supported the king, but because they understood. Dignity doesn't shout, it endures. But while the Prime Minister's credibility collapsed, another figure was waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Nigel Farage. Standing outside Reform UK headquarters, wrapped in Union Jacks and floodlights, Farage delivered a speech that would redefine the moment. His voice thundered through the crowd. When others insult our king, we honor him. When they mock our history, we defend it. And when they try to tear down what makes us British, we stand proud and say, not on our watch. It wasn't just a speech, it was a rallying cry. And within days, the country was listening. The clip spread across social media like a storm. Membership for Reform UK quadrupled. Donations poured in. For the first time, polls showed Reform overtaking Labour. It was a political reversal no one thought possible, and it was all born from one man's careless sentence. Inside Labour HQ, panic turned to despair. Ministers began resigning one by one. Rachel Reeves, Wes Streeting, Angela Rayner. Within 48 hours, half the cabinet had quit. Reporters camped outside Downing Street as crowds gathered, waving flags and chanting, "Respect the Crown, remove Starmer now." And then the silence broke. Not from Starmer, but from Buckingham Palace. Late one evening, with the nation holding its breath, a statement appeared quietly on the royal website. No cameras, no conference, just 31 words. His Majesty remains steadfast in his commitment to serve all citizens of the United Kingdom without prejudice and with enduring respect for our nation's institutions. The king never said Starmer's name. He didn't need to. The message was unmistakable, a royal rebuke, elegant and lethal. Analysts called it a masterclass in restraint. One constitutional scholar summed it up best. Charles just checkmated Starmer without moving a piece. By sunrise, the words were on every front page. By noon, the country was united in a single narrative. The king had spoken, and Starmer had been humbled. Outside Buckingham Palace, crowds gathered, singing "God Save the King." Flags waved, cameras flashed, and for the first time in years, the monarchy wasn't just ceremonial. It was symbolic of national unity. And inside number 10, Keir Starmer sat alone, staring at those 31 words on his screen. The irony was merciless. A man who built his reputation on control and discipline had lost everything because of one lapse in restraint. Within days, Labour's numbers collapsed. The Conservatives rallied, Reform surged, and the Prime Minister who once spoke of renewing Britain's faith in leadership had instead destroyed his own. The downfall was swift, public, and absolute. But more than that, it was poetic. Because in Britain, some traditions aren't relics, they're anchors. The monarchy isn't a decoration, it's the symbol of endurance, unity, and identity. You can challenge policies, question power, even reform institutions. But insult the crown, and you've crossed a line that the British people will never forgive. And that was the lesson King Charles never needed to say aloud. His silence was enough. While Starmer floundered, explaining, defending, pleading, the king stood still, calm in the storm. And in that stillness, Britain saw the truth. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it simply endures. By the end of that week, the story was no longer about politics, it was about principle. In the end, that leaves us with one question. Was this the moment the crown reminded Britain who still holds true power? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.